Hello. Sunita, we begin? Yes, absolutely. Hello. Yes. Good morning, everybody. A very warm welcome to all. We have gathered here today to discuss on a very critical topic of construction and demolition waste and dust management in our cities. So, since the 2016 C&D waste management rules have come up, and in 2018, the dust rules have come up, there are so many responsibilities and duties of especially urban local bodies, bulk waste generators, developers, pollution control board, state pollution control boards. So it's very important for everybody to understand what their roles are and what kind of ground challenges are there and how we can solve them. CSE has conducted research into this, and we will be discussing this research with you. And we have an exciting panel of dignitaries and experts from very interesting institutions. And we expect to understand and hear from them what they have to contribute to these deliberations. So without any further delay, I give a very warm welcome to our dignitaries here. So I welcome Ms. Sunita Narayan. She's the Director General for Center for Science and Environment, New Delhi. Anumita Roy Chaudhary. She's the Executive Director at the Center for Science and Environment. Our chief guest, Mr. Rajesh Kumar Kaushal. He's the Director General at CPWD. And our special guest, Mr. Adarsh Pal Vij. He's the Chairman to Punjab Pollution Control Board. And our other special guest, Dr. P. Raghavendra Rao, IAS. He's the chairperson at Haryana State Pollution Control Board. With this, I welcome again to, I extend our welcome to all the dignitaries and all the attendees that are here with us today. And with this, I hand over to Sunita ji to set the tone for the program.
Thank you, Mitashi. Thank you, Mitashi, and thank you, everyone. I join Mitashi in welcoming you all, and thank you all for coming. So just a quick reflection from my side. What is the importance of the issues that we are dealing with today? And how do we at CSE look at the agenda moving forward? And this is really important work that is being led by Anumita Roy Chaudhary and Rajneesh Saran from our office. But so CSE's work on C&D started, you will be quite surprised, almost a decade ago. And it started actually not with a concern so much on air pollution. It started initially with a concern about dumping of waste in wetlands and destroying of water bodies because of construction waste. And I, as you know, CSE has done a lot of work. We continue to do a lot of work on the whole issue of the importance of wetlands in our country. And today with climate change, the role of wetlands becomes even more important. I mean, Chennai would not have gone underwater if we had the sponges of the city, if we had the wetlands, the drainage systems. And ironically, what we were finding was this double whammy. On one hand, our rivers were being mined for sand because of building material. And on the other hand, that same building material once demolished was going in to destroy the wetland. So in a sense, it was a really big, it was an irony, it was a tragedy. It was clearly for us something that needed to be addressed. So our first work was really to look at what could we do to look at standards for replacing the use of sand in building material and using the aggregates that they were from the construction and demolition sector. So that is how the work started. And I'll be very frank with you. It wasn't pollution as much as the need to save water bodies, from one hand, the mining, and on the other hand, the dumping of waste, particularly construction waste, which was filling up every water body and destroying the rechargeabilities of these systems. We had some experience because we had in the past worked with BIS on looking at building material codes using fly ash. And so we basically began the conversation with BIS on using aggregates and recycled aggregates as building material. It was a very interesting, and I must say, I remember the name of the gentleman who was there at that time. I think it's Mr. Pan. I think he's still there or was there, but he was very open to the whole idea and understood it. Of course, making standards is not easy for building material because buildings are also got to do with strength, they've got to do with all other issues, but there was a huge openness to say, let us look at this. And that's when Commonwealth Games happened and the whole issue of using recycled pavers, materials, and the pavers that came out. I think it was the first time in the country, and that's 2009. So let's sort of understand that there has been a history to this. In 2009, Delhi was the first city to mandate that all the pavers that are used for pavements, and if you remember, all the pavements were being refurbished for Commonwealth Games, they would come out of the plant in Burari, the first CND plant that had been set up. Now, we have come a long way since, and I think we need to understand and we need to also take a joint credit for the understanding that has been built up in the country in the last over a decade. By 2018, 19, the issue of CND was again very hot. And this time it was really about the fact that you had dust in the air and that was contributing to pollution, air pollution in our cities. And the dust was coming from the breaking of houses, the construction of houses, the demolition of houses, but also the fact that this waste was then not disposed of, not recycled, but was also adding to the garbage and the pollution in our cities. This is where the interest in CND was very much renewed. By then, it was clear that we had a huge opportunity here to do a number of things that we could fix. If you could come up with a proper CND plan, and if you could recycle the waste that was coming out of your construction sector, then you would get 4 advantages. Number one, you would get recycled material that would then get replaced, would replace the amount of virgin material that you would use. Not small. Resource efficiency is about managing resource destruction. The less we use of our virgin material, the more we will make sure that we do not destroy our rivers, that we do not mine everything that we have. So replacement and reuse and increase in resource efficiency is absolutely critical when it comes to environmental management. It's also, and that's the second advantage about the circular economy, that you're really building an economy which reuses the material, and as pollution control boards know, one of your biggest crises is waste. Yeah. Now, if you can turn that waste into a resource, you actually are ending up with minimizing and mitigating your pollution burden. And this is not just with CND waste. We are at CSC, we have a whole industrial unit, industrial sustainability unit, which has turned its focus from pollution control to looking at the materials that come out as waste from industries and trying to see how they can be reutilized. Because if we can do that, we actually reduce our waste burden. So the second big advantage is the circular economy. and making sure that we can create a situation in which we reduce the amount of waste we have. Now, this is the third big advantage of this is that we actually end up with not filling up our landfill sites with waste that should not go to landfill sites. Now, the big, I think the news development has been the MOA, the Ministry of Urban Development, Urban Housing and Urban Affairs, has actually understood and really evolved its waste management strategies. When we began waste management under Swachh Bharat in 2016, it was about visible cleaning. Today, Swachh Bharat is about waste reutilization. It is about segregation of waste at the household level and reuse. And now MOA is talking about a zero landfill site strategy. Now, that means that if we can do C&D waste management, we've actually effectively dealt with the issue of how do we manage landfills. Because today, and you know this, that the tipping fee business has been that you actually load your trucks with C&D waste, take it to a landfill where the weighing bridge is used to say, what material I have, that per kg is paid to you, and it's waste which should not go to a landfill site. So that then becomes your huge big advantage of doing this. And the fourth basically is, in my view, the biggest advantage we have is that we really deal with pollution in our cities. So here are, the C&D waste issue is one which is not a single bullet. It's actually many, many things that we get out of if we get it right. Now, what Rajneesh and his colleagues have been working on, which we will present to you today, is really, so how do we do this? Because कहना आसान होता है, मगर what is the right technology for it? What are the best practices for it? And this is at two levels. And this is something we have learned. CSE does a lot of work, as you know, on fecal sludge management. Fecal sludge management में सबसे बड़ी चुनौती जो होती है वो ये होती है not to build a plant. वो तो आप बना लेंगे, आप STP बना लेंगे, आप FSTP बना लेंगे, आप cold treatment plant बना लेंगे, मगर how will you bring the waste from there to the plant? That's the biggest challenge. And that is also in the case of C&D waste, that is always the challenge. How do you connect the plant to where the waste is generated? What are the best technologies for it? Then the other big, and that I think is the most exciting part of the work that all of you are working on, which excites me enormously, is the new products that will come out of it. And the standards for the new products that will come out of it. So that we can make sure that they are not substandard products, because we don't want this industry to become, हाँ ठीक है वो लेते हैं waste और कुछ बना देते हैं, वो जैसे आजकल सीमेंट इंडस्ट्री से हाँ हमें waste भेज दिया cities में, मगर RDF अच्छा नहीं है. We need to make sure that the product is close at some standard, and that to me is the most exciting part of the work. So, just to give you an overview why we are so excited about this work, it sounds very non-glamorous, construction and demolition waste. I mean, who would think that we would all come together to discuss something like this? But I think it's a potential game changer. It's a huge game changer. And that's what we hope, that we will stay engaged with you, we will work with you so that we can find not just today the problem, but we can look at where the solutions are and how to scale them up. Thank you very much. So, Anamita, you will make a presentation.
Yeah, right. Thanks a lot, Sunita. That was a great setting of the agenda. And, all I think we now have to do is to add some data and evidence and information to what you have said, to that great framing of the issue and what lies ahead and how we need to deal with it. So,
Like so complicated.
I know, because it has to be,
Signs and signals. Unmute, Anamika, unmute yourself.
Unmute. It's fine, Sukanya?
Is it still echo?
It should be okay now, I think.
Right?
Right?
I
Okay,
think it's also
Great.
distance from the mic.
yeah. So
No, I can, please.
the slide not moving. Before we say anything further, it's important to know who are we in this room today. And you should see how at this moment India is represented in this room. So even though we would really like to have the entire country, but still, if you can see, it's pretty well represented. And the fact that it's just not the geographical representation, but the fact that we have absolutely the right people from state pollution control boards, urban local body, local self-government institutions, and the green campuses from this country, different parts of the country, and also the industry, including recycling industry and the building construction industry. So it's an amazing diversity. And of course, the leadership, the policy leadership that we have from Haryana and Punjab, and the leading construction body, CPWD. So I think that really creates this is an opportunity for a great conversation to really deepen our understanding about what we really need to do and how do we need to understand. Right. So, this is one issue that we have been tracking now for a long time, and a lot of studies we have done, not only just the overview studies, but we have also gone to different states of India to understand what is happening on ground. And this is the historical part, but then today we are going to present to you our new findings, the reality check from different cities of India, that are we doing it right? Have we really understood the different pieces of action that have to really link up all the solutions in a way that we can really find the answer and implement it effectively? So that's what we will be trying to today to capture from our understanding of what is really happening on ground. But before we get there, and we will present this finding from our study, and I will do this along with my colleague Rajneesh Sareen and the team here. But before that, we just want to keep a few issues in mind. First, what are the key policy drivers for construction and demolition waste management in this country? Clearly, one is the whole National Clean Air Program and the mandate to 134 cities to implement clean air action plans. And this is linked to a target of reducing particulate pollution by 45% by 2026. And as you all know, that this is also backed by now a financial mechanism from the 15th Finance Commission. And for the first time since 2022, this funding has also become performance linked. So the further disbursement of this fund will depend on your ability and your performance, that whether you have been able to reduce the particulate pollution or not. Now that process has started, but this clean air action planning process is a multi-sector plan, and all the sources of pollution have to be addressed. But within that, very clearly, construction and demolition waste is a very important intervention point, something that we really need to keep in mind. And as Sunita said, so that is one policy driver, pollution control. The second policy driver is the circularity, the policy emerging around circularity. And the Swachh Bharat, the Swachh Sarvekshan, which is all known now, there's SBM2. And what is important that all the reforms that have happened in that SBM2, it is now according higher weightage to waste management and we know that the points to be given to the C&D waste management has been further increased, and it is now a more holistic in approach. It is moving away from just setting up a recycling plant for C&D to actually waste collection system, to notified charges for C&D services, segregation of waste, collection, processing, and reuse of the waste. So all these elements are part of that ecosystem approach to C&D waste management that will be considered while giving the ranking points to the cities. And therefore, there is a very clear management infrastructure criteria given, and waste processing efficiency criteria are also detailed out, which are going to have huge bearing on the way the cities need to implement C&D waste management. So now, clearly, this means that we have to now do it right. But as we have understood and seen that devil is in the detail of working out the strategies for implementation. And that's what we will be discussing with you. But we also have to keep in mind that the larger connect, that all of these are being discussed within the rapid urbanization happening in our city, and with that, in our country, and with that, the construction boom that we are expected to see in this country. So our residential sector is adding more than 178 million square meters of residential floor every year. And it's explosive. Material consumption is expected to increase 6 times. And and if you look at the estimates that have come from the building material demand, especially from the PMPTC, so all our demand for cement, steel, bricks, aggregates, all that's going to be hugely magnified as we go forward. Now, but this means as we increase the material demand for new construction, we are also going to be generating huge amount of waste while constructing and also while demolishing old buildings. And that's what we really need to keep in mind as we go forward. So now, as Sunita has already explained, if we do not deal with it, we are going to see massive devastation, and it's a destruction of our water bodies, ecologically sensitive areas, and it's something that we really have to understand. Now, what is very important as we try and understand the C&D waste management, there are 2 critical aspects to this. One, simple dust control from construction. And the other is where you are managing the waste for circularity. And these are the 2 things that we need to understand separately, because at this moment, we are finding that a lot of focus is on dust control, and which also needs to be done better. And the other is all the bigger dimensions associated with C&D waste management. So if we look at the dust control aspects, which the state pollution control boards are so deeply involved with at this moment, we have to understand that the C&D dust is a hugely toxic dust. And the sources of dust, that is the dust as silica dust from sandstone, rock, sandstone, etc., dust from masonry work, tunneling, road milling, mixing cement and concrete. There is a whole mining dust from cutting and drilling to sandstone and granite, stone crushing dust, wood dust, and then demolition of old buildings, which lead to generation of huge amount of toxic dust from lead and asbestos. So when we say, therefore, it's very important for us to understand the nature of the dust, and therefore the mapping of the dust generation, in the entire the chain of sourcing the material to construction and to demolition. And and once we understand that, that will also help us to therefore design our implementation strategy more effectively. What is very fascinating is that today, as part of the pollution control measures, all cities are now focusing on hotspot pollution control, which is you're identifying the most polluted part of the city to be able to control pollution. But when you connect that exercise with construction, it is possible for, like we have done in Gurugram and we have done in Jaipur, that from the current databases that exist on the construction of buildings happening in a city and live construction, it is possible for all state pollution control boards to generate a map like this for the city, which is divided in 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer grid, and place all the construction sites and know where the construction is happening, so that you know how to therefore monitor dust control measures and where the construction hotspots are. This is important because as part of the pollution control today, and especially when we are in that severe smog episode during winter, one thing that we always do is to clamp down and stop construction. And it is therefore this preparedness is very critical for us to understand. Now, as far as dust control is concerned, now the rules and regulations are pretty clear. And we do have, so there are several, so there's a dust control mitigation measures which have been outlined by the Central Pollution Control Board, but also the EPA, or the Ministry of Environment and Forest, they also have given very clear a strategy for how do we need to do that dust control. So while that is the central guidance, now the state governments and the city governments are also notifying their checklist for dust control. Delhi has done that. This example is from Gurugram. And therefore, these are the basis on which the implementation needs to happen. And all these methods have been outlined. I'm not repeating them. But what is important for us to point out, and this is when we were going from city to city, we realized that even though the dust control measures have been outlined very well and very clearly, but the way they are implemented make no difference. So you can, this is visually so clear. You need to cover your buildings, but you can just see indifferently, these green cloths hanging, they can make no difference to your dust control. You need windbreakers, but the way you can see the top photograph, where the windbreakers are so low that the wind will come and blow away the dust in any case. So we have to therefore deepen the understanding between bad practice and good practice and know that how to implement them. So it's across, so wherever you are dumping today in the construction sites, as you can see, all this dump of material and the collection of the material that you see across, it is where you really have to understand that where how to do that well. The excavation that is done for construction, the dust mitigation approach is very poor. And it's all visually so clear that there is no covering of the dust, and it gets blown very clearly. So the best way to do this, so there are certain good examples as well in the industry. And it is important for us to document the good practice and show it and demonstrate it to the construction agencies, to the implementing bodies, that how is it that you need to do. So, so it is just not what getting blown away, but you also have to understand that there's a huge amount of truck movement, commercial vehicle movement in the construction site. And there are wheels that also then suspend a lot of dust in the air. So there is a wheel washing system that you also have to put in place, and whether it is being done right or not. So there is now, and as far as the CACAM direct is also in Delhi NCR, that they have actually mandated the use of smoke guns in the construction sites, and this process has actually started. There's a stockpiles that you have now in all the construction areas, which needs to be done properly. So all these good practices are emerging today, but we have to ensure whether we are doing it right. The other big part of this is the transport, and we find that all the approach roads to construction sites, often they are not paved well, and therefore there is, so when you have this and the truck moving on this kind of roads, that you can imagine the kind of dust that it is generating. The other big challenge, as Sunita was pointing out, that which we will link with the circularity issue later, that if you are not segregating your waste on site, then transporting it, because then you are transporting it as a mixed waste, that itself is a huge challenge later on. And so therefore, how do you do that, even though they're the waste generators who generate more than 20 tons or in a day, they are actually required to segregate waste on site, but we often find that that is not happening. And even the transportation which is happening, that is also without a cover. And therefore, you can imagine when these trucks, they take uncovered waste, how much waste, the dust it is generating. So we are beginning to see some changes here and there, and we'll talk about it later on more. But one of the key reasons that why we are seeing so much a problem of dumping and not doing it right, and also the way that it's being transported, is that even though a lot of the basic collection today is with the informal sector, but the policies have not integrated the informal sector efficiently enough with the collection and transport of the C&D waste, and which is also responsible for a lot of these problems. Now, cities are therefore taking steps as far as dust control is concerned. They are making helplines, portals. They're doing self-reporting. They have also notified penal action, public notices. There are EIS stipulations for more than 20,000 square meter, construction, what needs to be done. But as I said, that these are all small steps across the country. And even though it is happening, started to happen, but it is not happening the way it needs to happen. And that's where we really need to pay a lot more attention as far as dust control is concerned. But bigger solution will emerge not just from the end of pipe dust control, but we need much more. We have to inbuild and ensure at a fundamental level that we are planning for circularity. And therefore, the waste material and how you are doing the resource recovery from that is going to be the critical part of it. And you have to understand that India has a much lower recycling rate today compared to the rest of the world. And so even though the rest of the world, the developed countries are also not that great yet, but we know that our recovery rates are still very low. And so if we are generating, and so in fact, India is now known to be generating, there is going to be the third largest demand for material demand, in India. So therefore, all of these are happening, then the material productivity has to improve, and we have to at least first reach the global average, and therefore have to plan for that. So this is one issue that of focus. Sunita has already said that what a big fight it was in India, first to get the recycled aggregates and recycled material accepted as a legal material in the construction sector. But that amendment has happened, and now we know it is happening, and CPWD and the other construction bodies have started to do this. But what is exactly happening on ground today? And that's something that we really want to capture with you today. So it's very interesting that even though 134 cities today are implementing their Cleaner Action Plan, and they're required to report on their action on C&D management, but when you look at the Prana portal of the CPCB, where all cities are required to report on the status of their action, you find that it's such a small number of cities who are actually sharing data. So if you look at, the team has looked at the Prana portal, the data reported there by different cities, and you find that only 35 cities have actually given information on generation of waste generation, collection, just 8 cities on collection, 54 cities on status of collection points, 53 cities on status of recycling plants, 17 on notification of bylaws, 12 cities on developing helpline, and 23 cities developing mobile app. Now, out of 134 cities, this is the track record, and that's where, so you also, therefore, the basic information, how we are performing is so limited. So today, we are all talking about the C&D waste rules and regulation 2016 that need to be implemented across the country. But when you look at the Prana portal, only 17 cities are saying they have prepared and notified their C&D waste bylaws. Only 17 out of 134. And that is of the 134 non-attainment cities. We do not know about other cities yet. Only 8 cities have reported their C&D waste collection data. Only 3 cities have reported collection charges, and 4 cities have reported that they impose penalties. So there is very limited information in the public domain on what the cities are actually doing. So even on the waste treatment, the 12 cities who are saying that they have at least one plant operational, 6 cities are saying that plants are under construction, 26 cities saying that first recycling plant proposed, but not yet on ground, and 9 are saying that yet to be planned. So clearly, when you are looking at it, the scale of change is so limited. And that's where we really want to focus on that. What is it that how do you therefore look for speed and scale of action? But the biggest challenge, because C&D waste management means system design and an ecosystem approach, from segregation to collection to transport and then recycling. But if your basic estimation of how much waste you are generating in the city is not there, or it's incorrect, then you are not doing a good system design. In fact, CS, if you recall, Sunita, when we had pointed out some time back that from 2000 to 2017, the estimation of C&D waste generation of the country had not changed much. It had kind of remained, it's like a ballpark, someone out of just kind of putting it on the piece of paper without relating it to the reality of construction. But now we are beginning to see that different agencies are talking about different methods of waste estimation. TIFAC has given a thumb rule that it should be 50 kg per square meter for new construction and 300 to 500 kg per square meter for demolition. Whereas SBM2 criteria is a per capita criteria. And there's a lot of confusion around that. But this is what, when we go to the city, we talk to the agencies and say that you already have a huge database. Suppose you first take and collate your information that exists in the RERA database, EIA database, all the government construction company database, and it's all there with you with the ULBs. And you need to take that, map that, and apply the methods and estimate that how much is happening. So waste generation has been reported at different levels. We're not getting into the details of it, but we want to highlight one point here, the importance of estimating the waste, the C&D waste. And this, so we have, for instance, in Jaipur today, they have created a recycling plant with capacity of 300 tons per day. But if you just take their RERA database of active and live construction as of now, and you apply the method, then they are already generating 407 tons per day, right? But if you also consider their master plan, their new development plan for Jaipur, then it will be at least 3 to 4 times of the proposed recycling capacity in the city. So clearly there is no projection happening either. Even in Gurugram, you had started with just about 300 tons per day, but you are doing 1,500 tons per day already. But there is still no projection, but we know that a lot more is getting generated and we have not planned. So this is the most critical gap in our approach, that how do you therefore do proper system design? And it is possible, like we have demonstrated in Jaipur, that if you take the projection of how the construction industry is going to grow, you can project it for the future, that how much of waste are you going to generate, and therefore what kind of system design you need. We have also done that for Kolkata, and we have shown, based on their active construction, that how much of, say, 40 tons a day that they are expected to generate. So from that perspective, therefore, the report that we are going to be sharing with you today has looked into the larger ecosystem study, and that each piece of it, that your data, your collection system, bylaws, penalties, surveillance and monitoring, recycling technology, recycling plan, C&D product update, and then the public awareness and capacity building. So this report, therefore, based on the reality and the real data from the ground, has presented this whole approach and what needs to be done in the city. But in this, before I give it to Rajneesh, just to highlight some of the local information and evidence, I'll just point out one, that why it is important to have the construction industry as a partner. And they need to be proactive to be able to reduce and manage waste. It is not only about ULBs and SPCBs trying to monitor waste management system. It is also about the industry to build into their construction plan that how are they going to minimize waste generation. And they have to build the confidence in the reuse of the recycled product. And that's where we have to focus a lot more, because understand the new generation challenges, that while the bulk waste generators will have to give waste management plan, how they are segregating into different streams, that they're not mixing it up. But the next generation challenges also show that, if the industry, the construction industry, plans its construction well, then as TIFAC says, about 25% of old buildings and 75% of new building related waste can be recovered for reuse. It doesn't have to even go for recycling. But this will require a very clear recovery rate plan, even when you are planning your construction. And as we know that globally, this is what is demanded from the architects and the construction bodies, even before they go for the approval of their plans, where they have to outline that what are the strategies are they going to be taking for waste utilization and minimization of the waste generation. And also understand this forecasting and designing for reducing waste during pre-construction stage is absolutely critical. Global estimates show that 3% of waste material in construction projects, can be actually recovered and avoided. But because architects fail to do that, we lose that amount of material. So clearly we need good thing. And the other part of the missing link that we find everywhere, that even when we are talking about the building waste, but we are not paying enough attention to infrastructure waste. Now we know that DMRC, RRTS, they have built into their system waste management plan, but the PWD and others who are building roads and flyovers, a lot more will have to be done in that area. The other very big missing link is that there is no governance for demolition today. While construction is regulated, demolition is not regulated, and it is purely in the informal sector, done very informally. And this is one stream of waste that it remains invisible, but creates all kind of problem. And therefore, what we also want to say that to close the loop around circularity, we want to mandate the use of C&D waste. That is a the recycled material. And so even though we know that the rules are asking for it, but the market uptake of this is still very limited. And we also need to see, therefore, not only much bigger awareness and ensure and create the supply chain and the market absorbing mechanism, but we also have to work on the taxes and pricing of the recycled material, because we are told that today the recycled material may cost higher than the virgin material because of the distorted taxes today. This is possible. We are recycling this. In fact, I think under GST, the recycled material attracts about 18% tax, whereas on virgin material, it is about 5%. So this kind of distortion have to go. So we have created this kind of material, and this is what is the closing of the loop, circularity. And that's why we are so excited to actually have CPWD here. So this is the new building of the Supreme Court, where they have actually used the recycled aggregates. And like this, we have many such examples today in the country, setting the terms of change in the country. So with that, I close my presentation here. And Rajneesh, if I ask you to very quickly capture some of the ground realities around waste collection, bylaws, and recycling.
Thank you, Anvita ji. I'll take 3 to 5 minutes. I'll just take next 3 to 5 minutes to explain you what exactly this report which we're going to release. So we traveled across 7 states and we covered around 14 cities, and more cities. By the time I'm speaking to you, there are 5 more which is in the pipeline. So what we're trying, because Parana do not give us the real facts on the story, and in fact, there's information is lacking. Plus, what is the ground adherence of what we are doing in terms of construction is also lacking. So what we have done is we've taken the radar database, geolocations are there, went to almost every city, each and every construction site to see what compliances have been doing. That is there, part of the report, as well as the city in terms of ecosystem which is there. So what we have done is we have made a responsibility matrix of these cities. There are 6 primary factors. And under every primary factor, there are 3 to 7 sub-primary factors which are there. So look at so that how cities really stand tall with regard to whatever we developed as a mandate for them in 2016. So cities has taken different ways to it, like the bylaws as it is. They are saying they are not notified the bylaws. Many of them are what they are doing is existing solid waste bylaws are there. They are just adding one addendum or what minor changes in it and calling it as a C&D. But largely what you need is you need rules, you need a roadmap, and you need the bylaws to be registered. And for example, people will be going with us to Chandigarh tomorrow, as well as there are other municipal corporations which are represented here. So there, the city's responsibility almost goes to a very different level when they have all the 3 in place with them. So that's there. Then cities are actually giving their charges of collection also differently. For example, Gurugram tax you more if you give them unsegregated. So it's almost double of the cost. Many are giving you just the bulk waste, like the tipping fee. Then there is another model which Maharashtra follows is basically the amount of the waste and the kilometer travels. For example, if you have a far location of the processing sites, so automatically you will have little more taxing coming on. So these are the ways the tipping fees are coming up. Penal charges are also important. So there are various ways by which, because the NGT is asking the developer needs to be responsible. So for example, Pimpri Chinchwad is trying to bring in a third party who will go and do assessment. Gurgaon tried this, and later on now they come on to the self-monitoring, as well as cities are doing now with the help of PCBs, they are doing the video monitoring of this. So all the sites which are there construction, their CCTV cameras are linked with the central hooks, which are there with the CPCB or PCBs, and automatically chalaning and other things are possible from there. So I don't get into details, but yes, Parana definitely gives you a little, you can say lesser amount of data quantification which you can generate. Three types of largely the collection systems are there. One is door to door, where you pay a little more, but people come with the skips. RFID based systems are placed outside your house. You give it to them, and it is based on the construction permits. Second is that developers needs to go and drop it. Third is mostly cities which are following is, do you have identified ward-wise or maybe area-wise the collection points where you individual come and drop it? But most of what is clear, most of the cities are now charging you money based on the total waste which is being generated. So TIFAC formula is making way somewhere. The 50 kgs per square meter is now making, as well as the only thing which remains out of the gamut is still this, the demolition. Because demolition gives you a little more waste, but we are relatively doing a lesser tax. So it's more construction which is being regulated. So this is an example of bulk waste and how the RFID and other things are moving. Processing technologies, largely wet and dry. Wet, people are right now doing it more because of the dust compliances and issues which are there. But yes, we can do with the dry processing more. But in that case, we have to do a good site selection and the process which is involved with it. So there are cities which are talking about how many plants, where they have, but data is like weak. For example, Punjab, which is represented here today, chairman is there. So they have roughly 6 to 7 facilities. But when you go on Parana, you may not even find that. So there is a substantial gap which is there. So plants are looking at better segregation level, wet processing facilities, as well as because they yield the product, but definitely they are resource intensive. Then safety, dust issues are becoming one of the prominent factors for them to deal with. And then mandate for using recycled product, because that's one which is very important. So for example, in case of Chandigarh, what they are doing is that any government construction agency who's doing the construction, they have to get the non-availability certificate from the plant. If the material is not available, then only you can go and buy the virgin one. Right? These kind of tight controls are very required. Otherwise, what will happen is you make the materials ready there, but nobody's there to lift them up. In fact, so Delhi, for example, Sunita ji was mentioning to you that Delhi has mandated this and re-mandated it many times, that government agencies between 2 to 10% needs to be. This is the order reissued in 2018 against to tell to the agencies that you need to pick up these materials which are there in the site. But yes, the compliances are little different. Jaipur is trying to pitch this up to 40% in their bylaws. And Chandigarh, as I told you the example, that you have to have a certificate. In fact, Chandigarh has done interesting. They have done a waste to wonder park, which is made from CND waste. So this Ludo, which is there, it's based out of the construction material. So they bring their citizens over there, highlight and showcase to them that this is where the CND could be reutilized into your normal lifestyle also. And in fact, what they're doing is that you have paid the charges, you pick up 50% of the material free of cost from us. So if you have paid me 100 rupees, pick up 50 rupees material free of cost from the site, and I'll give it to you because you already paid me the fee for it. Chandigarh is doing that. So, and in comparison, like the products are not that expensive. Like for example, the 10 mm aggregates, 20 mm aggregate, 48 mm aggregates are almost 50% lesser than the virgin material charges which are there. So products are cheaper as well. It's not only when you make tiles and other things where you have more labor coming in, the products go a little more expensive, but raw materials are cheaper as compared to the virgin materials which are available in the market. So we've done these analysis to show it that there is possibility that you can rejiggle this up. Now, this is the responsibility matrix which I was talking about. So what we have done is these are 14 cities represented here. So based on various parameters of this matrix, we have 6 primary and then at least 3 or 7 under sub-primary where the city stands at right now. So that last one is a percentage bar or a pie chart which talks about the cities which have done the complete process. Like for example, Jaipur has done a good work in this, or Chandigarh has done a good work because their pies are complete, or maybe Noida has also done a good work. This is for one stage. Now then come the second stage where they're looking at the illegal dumping, surveillance, and third-party monitoring and all. There, the cities are maybe somewhere they need to bring up themselves more on it because they have now maybe the systems, but they are falling short of the infrastructure which is needed for this. Then when it comes to helplines, it's a very popular one because that's the easier one. you have a helpline, people will call you, but you may or may not have a substantial infrastructure to back it up with this. So cities are having the dumping point notification, door-to-door collection, vehicle fleet, GPS, all these infrastructures are now coming up. But moment you go on to any of the investment-based systems, you will find that blanks suddenly start coming up over there. So this means that this, whatever ecosystem of CND we are looking at, this needs to be provided a good funding feedback at this stage. And plus this complete loop needs to be worked out. So for example, Malba fees, integration with the building permits, many cities which they have done, they are able to do the complete steps also. Because now you have a revenue stream which is associated. But wherever you are doing half-hearted, based on whatever pressure you might be having, like for example, when you look at any of the NCR towns, under the pressure, they have done it. But they do not have a complete ecosystem maybe ready with them at this stage. Same is when you come to CND and largely the landfill, the detailed project plan, as well as floating of tenders, CND-based recycling plant, you look at almost wherever the investment comes, the blanks start showing up there. So somewhere, this is how largely the cities are placed at. And I think this is part of the report which we'll release now. So, and everybody can see, there are 10 examples which we included in this. Many are uploaded. Like this, for example, Chandigarh is not part of the report which we are releasing, but it's because it came later on. So many of these case studies are there on one of the interactive map on CSE main website. So you can download these case studies from there as well. I think, so summing up, cities need to frame their CND-based bylaws. They need to make developer liable and accountable. We need to have improved collection systems, and as well as there are various things which I think Anumita ji, Sunita ji has already identified. I don't need to get into detail, but yes, this is the sum up that where we need to have more stress coming in. And I think these are some of the very important area. And the most important one is to have a very good fiscal strategies coming for CND.
Get the books for release. Yes, let's get the books first.
So you should be very proud of us. We do not cover any books. No ribbon is used, no brown paper is used. Minimized waste. So we also stopped giving tags to all of you. So I hope you don't mind. It's all part of this whole effort, because every time we do it, we're like reminding ourselves, where is the waste? We're adding to the waste stream. So good. So wonderful, Rajneesh, please come.
Yes, please come with us.
Please come.
Mitashi.
Please.
Team members, I think.
Yeah, Mitashi, can't do this without you. Please.
Yeah.
Sudeep is there. Mitashi, can you now invite? Yes.
I now request and call upon Shri Rajesh Kumar Kaushal, Director General to CPWD, to give a special address on how the construction agency is adopting and implementing circular strategies for waste management. Mr. Kaushal, please. Let's have a round of applause for Mr. Kaushal.
Very good morning. I would like to express my gratitude to CSE, especially ma'am. I'm our follower. I read your articles, ma'am. And the dignity on the dais we have, and of the dais also, we have a very small team and all full of professional and who is handling on this issue. So being a part of this conference, the drive of bringing together various stakeholders, construction industry, sensation or management of CND waste and dust control practices. Although my organization as a Central Public Works Department, we implement the policy of the Government of India. And it is a premier construction agency, and Director General is technical advisor to the Government of India. And we set all standard and framework across nation and followed by all state governments. So any OMs, policies, we do a lot of deliberations. And I'm thankful to CSC, keep on giving training to our professionals, and very long association, ma'am. I have attended so many programs and really thankful to you, and we will keep working more and more on this issue. This is a very sensitive issue, CND waste, and because we are facing this, and I also we must have some kind of this waste CMD waste forecasting station, actually, like we have for weather also, we have for crops also, because we keep on working entire client all over India, whether it's agriculture, whether it's a health sector, all sectors, education sector, we are setting so many institutions across India, actually. So some kind of some app or something like that to be needs to develop forecasting CND waste station like that only. That some construction industry must come forward, because our country is a developing nation and a lot of changes are going on, a lot of pressure on real estates and all those, and so definitely we need such kind of and must be covered by the AI also. We talk of these days more of AI also. So some kind of system we have to develop, being such a large country, actually, of having so many states also. So construction industry in India generates more than 100 millions of tons of construction and demolition waste annually. This waste is generating from demolition and old structure construction activity, a matter of concern all over the world. It is challenging task to handle CND waste because it is bulky, heavy, and mixture of various materials and different characteristics. See, the definition is waste. Nobody bothers. It's waste. See the word, actually. So no importance, nothing. You have to dump it somewhere, and our rivers, natural, all are in danger, actually. And these things are done not in daytime, in the night time, on raat hota hai sab. Ye bada clear hai. This is my experience, actually. And even although we put a lot of things on that also, but it is done in the darkness only. I've seen it. So according to the Paris Accord 2015, India has submitted a Panchamrit as it is nationally determined commitment NDC for fulfilling long-term goal for becoming a net zero nation by 2070. Aspects of Panchamrit include reduction of carbon emissions and carbon intensity of the economy, as construction industry is a major contributor, 38% to the carbon emissions. There is an urgent need of effective CND waste management. Otherwise, it will go out of control if you don't, handle this issue in the coming years, actually. Recycling and reuse of waste will reduce the uses of natural resources. Recent trend in construction industry of using alternate source of construction material, which can substitute the use of virgin material to reduce the environment impact in terms of energy consumption, pollution, waste disposal, and global warming, is a welcoming step. My organization is very sensitive about these issues for green building. I've discussed the ma'am also so many times also. Thank ma'am. Our professionals are very serious about it, while on the board also and on the sites also, they always talk of these issues very carefully, how to handle these issues. So there we have developed that sensitiveness to this issue on sites also, because we are handling very large campuses, 200, 300 acres, project costing around 700 crore project, 800 crore projects we are handling across India. And our workload is this year is going to be 30,000 crore. We are reaching that level also, because there is a lot of investment by the government creating all the infrastructure facility across India in terms of health sector, education sector, and all research sector also. And see, my client is very different. It starts from Kanyakumari to Kashmir and all Andaman. We are all borders also. All borders we are there also, and contributing to the national security also. So all we are constructing BOPs also, all paramilitary forces we are working. We are giving them all support, constructing roads. My teams are at even minus temperature. They are working also. There is the Sikkim. There was some few months back. So initially we could not trace our people, actually. Yeah, but finally all are lucky and all safe, actually. Later we found also. So that trains our team works, actually. Recycling of CND waste converted to coarse and fine aggregates, bricks, paper blocks. Dual benefits of saving land fill spaces, reduction in extraction of natural raw material, new construction activity leading towards sustainable development. Civility has used recycled blocks in Supreme Court, as already talked about, in the complex New Delhi, produced from CND waste from Burari plant. These blocks were used in external walls, toilets walls, lift well walls. Total 17.5 lakhs blocks, sizing from 400 to 200 mm, and 40 1,000 cubic meter used in this project. It's a large amount actually. Similarly, has included construction and demolition waste, recycled material, namely precast solid cement, concrete blocks, paper blocks. It is already listed in our DSR 2016, and recycled aggregates, recycled concrete aggregates, DSR 2018. Similarly, had mandated uses of C&D waste block in masonry works for non-structural members in place of clay bricks in Delhi, NCR, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, and Surat. It is already there. In addition, this recycled waste is also being used in the redevelopment of 4 GPRA cloning. That was the task given to us in Delhi, Mamadpur, Kasturanagar, Tyagnagar, Srinivasapuri. Mamadpur we have already handed over. Tyagnagar already handed over to the users, and others are in the pipeline. And because there we have generated a lot of C&D waste there, because these were the colonies which were built in 1940s, pre-independence and post-independence. So those were the things. And that quality of bricks, what I have noticed, ma'am, is excellent quality. Excellent quality of those bricks. Even I've seen Surajnagar also. All those that time, really the people care about the quality actually. So those are the things. And then our Mahua has already issued directive to take action, promote the separation of C&D waste source, established institution mechanism by C&D waste collection, to levy charges on C&D waste generator, to amend municipal bylaws to include the use of C&D waste conforming to standard in the civil construction. The ministry has also advised that all civil construction works carried out CBWD, NBCC, project funded by Government of India should utilize recycled C&D waste as a first choice. That is the first preference. Then Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change has brought out a detailed guideline for March 2016 for collection, segregation, recycling, treatment, and disposal of construction and demolition waste in environmentally and sound manner. The Bureau, BIS, and IRC, Indian Road Congress, have been made responsible for preparation of code, practice, and standard for recycled material and products of construction and demolition waste in the construction activities. CPWD is already using C&D waste material in work in shape of sand aggregates, because sand is now become scarcity, and we have to stop many projects because there is a timeline for us. We have to deliver a project in time actually, because we are handling more of deposits rather than budgetary. So in deposits, we have plenty of money actually, and the clients, and then again we deprive the nation. If we are setting one IIT, and if it is getting delayed also, then the whole giving a facility of infrastructure to the IIT again delayed is not a good thing actually. So we deprive the students also by that. I took it that way. If not constructing hostel and etc. on time and any college building, again there is a delay, and they must be functioning on rented accommodation, which is not suitable for them also. So these are the things. Then CBD has also used more than 30,000 metric ton of C&D waste in last 5 years. Stipulation have been made in the contract document for handling over C&D waste generated from work to C&D waste processing plant for recycle. Schedule of rates of recycled item have been prepared in order to facilitate estimation and stipulation for better adoption and promotion. Recycled concrete aggregate have been allowed in CBD for use in plain, reinforced concrete, and clean concrete. All field units have been directed to incorporate suitable provision in the special condition of this contract, ensure compliance of the rules. Considering the poor air quality index condition that we now face almost throughout the year, maintaining stringent measures and guidelines for dust control should be necessarily ensured. Rise of these population has emerged as an alarming trend. As a part of social responsibility and maintaining government policies, CBD ensures project minimizing dust control through various methods like provision of windbreakers, anti-smoke gun that we are using Central Vista, it is already there. Covering material during transportation, implementation of GRAP as applicable, ensuring coverage of building material, tree plantation, topsoil protection, proper management of C&D waste, regular sprinkling of water on the open spaces and trees, regular washing of wheels of vehicle entering the exiting the site. That we have already done since 2012. Because we have constructed one building in Delhi, net zero building. All practice were being followed now. Earlier they were kind of a special condition, but now it is followed on all sites. It's compulsory. And our construction agencies are now also very sensitive of this. Because they are being trained. We are more on digital platform these days. So we all on board, and we keep them training also to the workforce also. We train them also. We take the healthcare also. So many things, educate them, healthcare, and their I personally, we conducted program few months back. We went to the colonies and cleaned their the huts also. We took entire team. Our honorable minister has also attended the program. There was a directive from the honorable prime minister that the Shram GBs, they are the real who works for the sites actually. They are who contribute. Without them, we cannot do anything. So I hope the conference with enlighten various stakeholders better practices on the project so that we will have a more holistic sustainable development. That the case. So we will, it is a joint venture. Every nation, it is our responsibility as an organization, even everyone professionals. So we must work together to handle such sensitive issue actually.
Absolutely.
So I thank you everyone giving me patient hearing. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Kaushal. This is definitely a good overview of what good practices CPWD is doing and leading the change that is taking place in the construction industry. And now we move on to our next session, that is to understand what kind of regulatory frameworks are there in the country when it comes to compliances for C&D waste and dust control. So now I call upon and request Dr. P. Raghavendra Rao, Chairperson, Haryana State Pollution Control Board, to deliver his address. Let's have a round of applause for Mr. Rao.
Thank you so much. I'm not a doctor, so. Thank you. Dr. Sunita ji, Dr. Anumita ji, Kaushal ji, Professor Vij, and all dignitaries and friends. So, in fact, when Anumita ji called me, because we have been working together for the last about 2 years now, for all seminars and other things related to pollution, she's always ready to come and then assist us and help us and give us useful inputs. Thank you so much, Anumita ji. Thank you for that. She was very busy in Dubai for the last 3-4 days, maybe 10 days. But still, she managed to give me some talking points, and then I was just jotting down those points. But before that, on the way, my officer Sanjeev is here. So he gave me a small copy of a presentation, which I thought I must, only 1 page, 2 pages, I'll just talk about it. We have a partner called GDI Partners. So they gave me a slide, which I thought is very interesting. I don't know, must be correct. Anumita ji, you can let me know whether this is correct or not. It is mentioning that the way construction sector in India is growing, the figures, I don't know how many of you can fit. I don't have a slide, but I don't know. It shows that the way India's construction sector is growing, it is the CAGR is 9.8%. 9.8 between 2020 projected up to 2030. This is the projection for CAGR of the construction industry in India. I was just looking at the comparative figures for China and others. China, they said it's about 3.8. USA is about 3.3. Our nearest competitor, I will say, I don't know whether we should call it competition. It is 8.2, and then so on and so forth. That means the way we are constructing, the rate at which we are constructing is the highest in the world. Highest in the world. Now, I was looking at the other figure. They say that the contribution of construction sector to the GDP by 2025, they made some projections, it's going to be 13%. It's just very, very significant contribution of the construction sector. The other useful point I thought of, but there are very several points, maybe I can share it with you, maybe, is the contribution of construction sector for PM 2.5, they say it's 8%. Maybe it's an average. I'm not very sure. Must be correct. Must be correct. Yeah, must be there. They've got a lot of sources and then they tabulated this. Similarly, the contribution of construction sector for PM10 is 21%. 21%. And then 8% for 2.5. There are several other points, but I thought let me talk about the useful points which she shared. I was also noting down and I was trying to correlate with Haryana. Sunitaji was rightly pointing it out that it is not only the dust particles and emissions from construction and demolition sector, it is on the choking of the water bodies and green areas and public spaces is a very, very important thing. Now, there is rapid urbanization that is happening, and then the construction industry, the way it is growing, huge demand for primary materials. I was just jotting down minerals, stone, sand, iron ore, aluminum, timber. She gave me all those points. There must be several others also. So that means so much of material we are using for construction industry, and you see the effect on the ground from where they are coming. Mining, a lot of deforestation must be happening. If you want timber, naturally the corollary is a lot of deforestation must be happening. So it is very, very essential that not only for controlling pollution and then making a sustainable environment, recycled material usage is equally important for us, because that is going to reduce our demand for primary virgin materials. It is going to slow down the rate at which we are mining, the rate at which we are deforesting, and so on and so forth. Now, I am very happy that the BIS was able to notify the rules recently. I don't know which year, 2018-19, Mr. 18-19. Now, they say that you are permitted to use recycled material provided the following conditions up to this, and so on and so forth. It's very good. So now, the need of the hour is for all of us to follow the rules and ensure strict implementation of the rules, because there the devil is. The devil is lying there. We have the rules, we have all the policies and all that, but at the level of implementation and enforcement, there are a lot of gray areas. Now, I was looking at a lot of the schemes that have been talked about: NCAP, Swachh Bharat, 15th Central Finance Commission, EP rules, and so on and so forth. Now I do understand that the focus is now mostly on 2 points: is the not only recycling infrastructure, adequate infrastructure, but it is also a quick uptake about the recycled materials usage in the new constructions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now we need to integrate, it has been rightly pointed out by Anumitaji and everybody, Rajnishji also. We need to ensure integration of the C&D rules, waste rules, with our municipal bylaws. The point that has been Rajnish also was talking about, several gray areas are there. Now, in the Swachh Sarvekshan also, a lot of weightage is being given for waste management, infrastructure, and waste processing efficiency. That's good. That's very nice. Now, coming to the role of the PCBs, the PCBs, of course, we have to get the data. We are supposed to collect the data and submit the annual reports. We have to ensure that the processing plants get the authorization and so on and so forth. In Haryana, just to give a context to the whole thing, the Haryana government notified a waste management policy for C&D in 2020, November. It covered several points. Now, the sites have been identified for dumping of the C&D waste, where the storage for the C&D waste in all the 84 ULBs. And we have 3 plants, one in Gurgaon, as she has rightly pointed out. Now it's about 1,500 tons per day capacity. MCF has about 300, and Rewari has about 500. Some issues are there with regard to their operations, but we need to sort them out. Now, of course, they have given some figures for challans and then the penalties that were imposed. Now, the crucial point I wanted to say is we must focus on about 3-4 things. We must focus. One is ensuring that the waste collection systems are fine-tuned to such an extent that the efficiency improves. Now, apart from notifying the charges, the user charges and penalties and all those things, segregation, she has rightly pointed out about the segregation is equally important. Now, not only collection, transportation, and then processing, we need to give full focus. And of course, the last but not the least is how do we ensure that the processed waste is reused? If we don't focus on that, because I do understand that in Gurgaon, this problem is coming up, that because the offtake of the recycled processed waste is not to the desired extent, a lot of piling up is there. As a piling up, because it is getting piled up, space is not there, so the capacity utilization is going down. So there are issues that are coming up. Now, we need to ensure that we emphasize on proper estimation also is equally important. We need to, before we do anything, we need to have some data as to what is the estimated amount of waste that is likely to be collected. And of course, we need to focus on processing and then reuse. Now, the network of collection points and then ensuring transportation through GPS-enabled trucks is very, very important, because you see in Gurgaon, I don't know, at least I see very frequently, people just go and dump it on the roadside. If you go from Gurgaon to Faridabad, or even on the national highway, unfortunately in the night, as rightly pointed out, they just see that nobody's there and they just dump it. And then, so that means the waste is not going to the intended place where it needs to be processed. Now, another very important point she has mentioned is about the informal sector. How do we integrate the informal sector with this formal sector so that we get advantage of that also? Everybody benefits from this. The other point, another important point she mentioned was incentivizing the construction industry so that they manage their own waste. And then on-site reuse and recycling, if at least the major players, if they're able to do it. In Gurgaon, your major players are there. A lot of the amount of construction they undertake. If these people are able to at least maybe 15%, 20%, 30%, if they are able to reuse the materials, a lot of significant progress can be there. And of course, not only that, they also, if they can, the construction industry could make adequate focus on forecasting and also take up measures for mitigation. Now, another important point she mentioned is very, very right. For example, out of 84 urban local bodies in Haryana, we have only 2-3 urban local bodies which have their processing facilities. What about the rest? So we were thinking another important point is sharing of the resources. Yes. If the nearby urban local bodies can share these the facilities that have been created, the only problem perhaps would be the transportation, proper transport, scientific transportation, and then proper accounting for it. Should not happen that on the road again they dump somewhere else. So that point is there. Now, that will lead to not only a utilization of the existing capacities, but also efficient investments that have been made. So they'll get good returns. Now, another point rightly pointed out is our focus is largely on construction, but less on perhaps demolition. So demolition, of course, these upcoming cities, demolitions may not be to that extent, but definitely we need to focus on the demolition projects. So how do we manage them? Mega projects, the point has been rightly pointed out about metros, highways and all that. And dust control. Dust control for us, at least in NCR, this is a major area of concern. CPCB has its own guidelines of over 20,000 square meters, I think. And then CAQM has 500 square meters in the bar. We have a web portal. In Haryana, we have about 700 and odd projects registered. So we talk about self-auditing and monitoring and stringent enforcement measures and all that. But there are some issues. Construction vehicles is another important point, because in 2024, you said we have to switch over to BS6. Oh, good. So it's just about there. So we need to do that. Now, rationalization of taxes, I was surprised. I was seeing the figures. So if you recycle it, the tax rate is very high. And if you use the virgin material, tax rate is very low. I'm surprised. I don't know how this is happening. These are some of the points, but there are so many other things. Maybe, Mike, I can share it with you and then we can carry it on. But there's an important forum where we can discuss and then share our experiences. Information sharing is extremely important, and then good practices also. We need to learn from each other. I'm sure this seminar will definitely focus on that. Thank you. Thank you so much. for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. You have rightly pointed out how important it is to not focus on just one element, but several elements that compose together the ecosystem. I now call upon and request Dr. Adarsh Palvich, Chairperson, Punjab Pollution Control Board, to share his experience on what state level action has been on C&D waste management and dust control in the state. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mitashi. Thank you, everyone. It's wonderful to interact on different matters. The pollution control areas are becoming bigger and bigger. No doubt our main aim is regulatory. So first of all, congratulations to CSC, who is always pushing the things, not at the local level, but at the national as well as international level, and making all sit together and learn. And I am also actually as a learner, not now, but so many years earlier. Thanks to Professor Luthra, Dinesh, and everybody here for giving this opportunity. My main research was on biodegradable waste, solid waste. So this is when I see these other things, then I felt those. But now in board, we are regulators. So naturally, the agencies has to work. So that becomes sometimes difficult, as Rob, we were telling you. So in Punjab, I will start with the Punjab because being last speaker, you would need to be very quick. So notification was done again in maybe Haryana parallel 2020, and policy is also there 2020, and local government has to see. And if you see the local role of local government, so like in other municipal waste and other waste, the same is not taken care by that. How much they will do, how much they will do, that is different. But there are fines, 5,000 per vehicle. Fine is there if they are dumping it anywhere. But if they are littering or making deposition and making obstruction kind of thing, then it goes to 1 lakh. So the rules are there, but I have seldom seen that maybe any fine have been. The fine on burning of waste is 5,000 by NGT, but who collects? So this kind of thing is there. So total waste generation in Punjab is about 2 lakh ton per day. So this is there. Processing facilities, if they are available, it is only data with me. 462 ton per day. So very, very less. But some units are there. So even I have seen one is in Patiala. They are making tiles and all that kind of things, but very, very small. So micro units, about 139 micro units are there. I think maybe out of business concern, they are coming up automatically. Then medium, only 3, which is of 5 ton per day capacity. And large unit, 1 is operating maybe at Amritsar or Jalandhar, I'm not sure. But these 3 cities, Amritsar, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, they are in process of establishing one facility. So this is all about some data which is not very much with the things are not at starting stage. So now regarding the issues which have been already discussed, but I will just supplement those kind of things. So this is a very different kind of waste. And every time I see a new kind of waste is being seen, it's not that amount, categories, types, and everything is growing abundantly. So because we are using it and everything is we are throwing. So it's not biodegradable itself. So that is also, I think if you are knowing, it's voluminous, it's heavy. So you must know it is difficult to transport. These are the some more difficulty points which I wish to highlight there. And when we see C&D, we only see buildings. In the whole report, I think we have worked on buildings only. But what about roads? they are, I think maybe 10 or 100 buildings is maybe equivalent to one stretch of road of 100 kilometers. So and you move and आपके मन में गालियां भी निकलती हैं, गुस्सा भी आता है, आप शीशा बंद करते हो, ये होता है, वो होता है. तो एंड वो पंजाब वाले जो बैठे हैं, तो when we move from अमृतसर, जलंधर, लुधियाना, ये सब जगह पहले रोड बनती है, फिर फ्लाईओवर बनते हैं, फिर वो फ्लाईओवर छोटे होते हैं, फिर तो ये मतलब हाँ वो सब मतलब. So this is there. So and the concerned agency is National Highway Authority. आई हैव बीन कॉलिंग, मैंने उनको बुलाया, ये कहा जी आप मिटिगेट करो, डस्ट का करो, साइड रोड्स बनिए, ये बताइए, कुछ नहीं होता भाई साहब। बड़ा मतलब वो रूल्स में है, वो हमने ठेकेदार को दे दिया जी, वो करेगा जी, ये करेगा मतलब। एंड आई हैव टू क्रॉस दोज रोड्स, सबको भी करनी पड़ती, बट बीइंग रेगुलेटर मैं भी कुछ नहीं कर सकता। आप जलंधर चले जाओ, वहां बन रहा है, सबने देखा होगा। तो ये एक बड़ा भारतमाला प्रोजेक्ट पंजाब में तो आप भर रहा है, गडकरी जी पिछले दिन आए थे अमृतसर, तो दैट इज अ गुड थिंग, डेवलपमेंट एंड एवरीथिंग इज गुड, बट नॉट एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ नेचर। ये जब ये हो रहा है तो फिर आप, सर ने डाटा बड़ा अच्छा बताया, मैं पंजाब के बारे में मिस कर गया, बताना चाहता हूँ। बट देयर आर कंस्ट्रक्शंस एंड कंस्ट्रक्शंस गोइंग ऑन। हाउसिंग की बात कर रहा हूँ, मोहाली, जीरकपुर, न्यू चंडीगढ़। The main core source of air pollution of cities is ये सैटेलाइट सिटीज। आपका प्रॉब्लम दिल्ली या चंडीगढ़ नहीं है, जो सैटेलाइट टाउन्स बना रहे हो ना आप, वो है सारी प्रॉब्लम। उसमें सीएनडी भी है, बाकी भी एयर पोल्यूशन वाली सारी चीजें। तो वो सारा ये उसको ध्यान में देखना पड़ेगा। प्लस एंड वन थिंग वी आर मिसिंग ऑन हिल्स, कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑन हिल्स। अब आप देखिए इस बार जितना फ्लड के कारण या बाकी के कारण प्लेन में इतनी नुकसान नहीं हुआ जितना उत्तरांचल, हिमाचल और ये देर। व्हाई? दिस इज द लेवल ऑफ डिग्रेडेशन, इन्वायरमेंट डिग्रेडेशन। अब प्लेन से बढ़ के पहाड़ों में जा रही, तो वहां भी जी रोड चौड़ी करनी है जी। एंड आई वाज लुकिंग भी, ईआईए में शायद उनको है पहाड़ों में शायद 5-6 मीटर कर सकते हो, तो वो 2 स्प्लिट करके ये ले लेते हैं। ये 8 इधर कर दिया, 8 दूसरा कर दिया, वो डबल रोड बना, क्योंकि एवरीबॉडी एंजॉयज डबल रोड, क्रॉस होना चाहिए, मुझे ये ना। डैम्स, अभी देखा आपने चमोली और ये सारे संकट में। एंड द रेलवे, तो ठीक है हमें डेवलपमेंट करनी है, बट वो कैसे होगा, ये सारी चीजें ठीक है जी। ये दो, दूसरी बात, द थर्ड इशू रिगार्डिंग वेस्ट इज टॉक्सिसिटी कमिंग विद दैट। अभी तक तो शायद आपने ये देखा, मुझे लगता है वहां पे पेंट्स, केमिकल्स, पीओपी, ये इंसेक्टिसाइड, पेस्टिसाइड, ये जो यूज हो रहे हैं वो वेस्ट में जाएंगे, कहीं और तो जाएंगे, या सीवरेज में जाएंगे। तो ये भी मुझे देखना पड़ेगा वेदर योर सीएनडी इज टॉक्सिक और दिस इज ऑलवेज यूजेबल। सो ये 3.9 द सॉल्यूशंस, बिकॉज आई एम ऑलवेज ऑप्टिमिस्टिक, तो हमें सॉल्यूशन की तरफ जाना पड़ेगा। द फर्स्ट थिंग आई ऑलवेज फील एट इवन पोल्यूशन बोर्ड, द सेल्फ रेगुलेशन। आदर्श पाल को कोई अख्तियार नहीं है अभी मैं यहाँ लेक्चर दूं और बताऊं इफ मैं वो फॉलो नहीं करता इन ऑल टर्म्स ऑफ इन्वायरमेंटल कंप्लायंसेस। रजनीश एंड ये सब मुझे जानते हैं मेरे सब। तो ये इंडिविजुअली खराब किसने किया? इंडिविजुअल्स ने किया है। तो इंडिविजुअल्स को ठीक होना पड़ेगा। तो सबसे पहले आई पुट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑन गवर्नमेंट सिस्टम्स। तो गवर्नमेंट सिस्टम, सीबीडब्ल्यू इज सिटिंग हियर एंड एवरीवन इज नो यू आर डूइंग एफर्ट्स। ये नहीं मैं किसी को पिन पॉइंट नहीं कर रहा, बट गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज हैज टू बिगिन। ये लॉज, ये रेगुलेशन आपको करके दिखाना पड़ेगा। एंड स्प्रिंकलिंग, स्मोक गन्स, द ऑप्शंस आर अवेलेबल, वो देखने पड़ेगा। आप इसको लो लाइंग एरिया में डंप कर सकते हो। इसमें मैं थोड़ा मिस कर गया, व्हेन वी सी ए न्यू काइंड ऑफ प्रॉब्लम, व्हाई वी फॉरगॉट अवर ट्रेडिशनल मेथड्स। चाहे अब सॉलिड वेस्ट की, मैं उसमें लंबा नहीं जाता हूं, ये वेस्ट पहाड़ बने क्यों? क्योंकि इंडिया का कल्चर था रीयूज, रिसाइकल। हम मैं छेड़ना, 50 साल पहले किसी घरों में डस्टबिन नहीं होते थे। हमारी नानी दादी, वो एवरीथिंग वाज रिसाइकल्ड राइट एट द होम। अब कहते हैं सेग्रीगेशन, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, साइंटिफिक, ये नहीं हो सकता भाई साहब मेरे साथ। तो ये सीएनडी भी उसी तरह का है। वो ट्रेडिशनल आपको देखना पड़ेगा। मुझे याद है वो दुकानें लगती थी, डोर्स अलग बिकते थे, वो लकड़ अलग बिकती थी, ईंटें ईंटें तो कोई छोड़ता नहीं था, उसको साफ करके वो रीयूज करते थे। वो उस समय भी तो होती थी, थोड़ी कम होती थी कंस्ट्रक्शन, तो वो कहाँ जाता था? कोई फॉर्मल सेक्टर था नहीं। और मुझे याद है एक कम्युनिटी है, वो डोंकीज और ये वो सारा लेके चलते थे, हमारे वहां उसको कुम्हार बोलते थे। वो सारा लेके चलते और बिकता था। वो लोग कहते हैं आप घर खरीद रहे हो ना, तो अब ये मलबा आपको भी कॉस्ट है इसमें। अब कहते हैं नहीं, मलबे की कॉस्ट नहीं हम दे रहे। तो ये ट्रेडिशनल चीजों को भी आपको देखना पड़ेगा, उसमें कैसे हम उसको ठीक कर सकते हैं। वो मलबे वाले मॉडल इंस्टीट्यूट, मॉडल बिल्डिंग्स, एंड वन एग्जांपल इज निमली। मुझे लगता है तो रजनीश ने मुझे दिखाया, मैंने भी कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट किया। तो वहां एवरीथिंग इज वो नजर आती है ये सरियाल यूज किया है, ये सीएनडी, तब तक ये मॉडल्स नहीं हम पेश करेंगे, सीपीडब्ल्यू बैठे हैं, पीडब्ल्यूडी बाकी, तो कोई कह रहे हैं, वो कहता नहीं जी नहीं, पुराना यूज करना ना, जैसे बेइज्जती होती है हमारी, पुराना कोई यूज, नया अवेलेबल है, जैसे उसमें टैक्स भी कम है। तो ये भी एक साइकी को छोड़ना पड़ेगा भाई, पुराना बेटर, पहले ये होता था पुराने कपड़े अच्छे हैं, अब बंदा कहता है पुराने डालोगे तो मेरी बेइज्जती हो जाएगी। सो दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग हैज टू बी टेकन केयर। ये मॉडल जो सीएनडी वेस्ट से बने होंगे वो चलने चाहिए। रोल ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर एंड प्लानर्स, what they should guide to the owner, what they should guide to the things, they should guide them rather। ये बैठे हैं तो लोग, इनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ज्यादा है। आर्किटेक्टर ही कहेगा नहीं जी नया लो, ये तो ऐसे नहीं होता, ये पुराना डिजाइन है, ये फेंक, तो मुझे लगता है उसमें भी एक रोल है, तो उनका रोल भी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट है। इंसेंटिवाइजेशन ऑफ फॉर यूज, वो सीएनडी के ऊपर यदि इंसेंटिव करेंगे तो ये जो घर बन रहे हैं, ये प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना, ये ईडब्ल्यूएस, ये ऐसी जो स्कीम्स हैं, तो मुझे लगता है इसमें सीएनडी वेस्ट यूज करेंगे तो मुझे लगता है कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगी, क्योंकि वो तो लो कॉस्ट बनाने हैं और वैसे बनाने हैं, या जब ये फ्लड्स आ गए या ऐसा आ गया तो उसमें मुझे लगता है उसको रीयूज करना, रिसाइकिल करना एक अच्छा मॉडल है। फिर जो रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटीज हैं जैसे बीपीसीबी है, सियासीक, इफ यू नो, तो हम बड़ा देखते हैं उनका वाटर बैलेंस कैसे है, उसने एसटीपी लगाया कि नहीं लगाया, तो मुझे लगता है वहां पे भी एक, मैं आई एम द मेंबर देयर बट मैं अभी शुरू करूंगा, तो कैसे वो सीएनडी वेस्ट कितना यूज कर रहा है, तो वो मुझे लगता है वो भी एक अच्छा आइडिया हो सकता है। द लास्ट वन इज द रोल्स एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ शॉप्स, जो सप्लायर्स हैं, जो सामान बेच रहे हैं, तो वो सड़कों पे फैला हुआ है, कवर कुछ नहीं है, वो डिस्प्ले के नाते फैलते हैं, पत्थर लगे लगे बड़े बड़े, वो पत्थरों की क्रशिंग हो रही है, ये हो रहा है, वो सारा, तो उनको भी कुछ चेकिंग, कुछ ऐसा मुझे लगता है वो करने चाहिए। एंड दीज काइंड ऑफ पॉजिटिव थिंग्स आर ऑलवेज देयर एंड वी आर ऑल होपफुल व्हेन वी सिट टुगेदर, व्हेन वी वर्क, आई थिंक द थिंग्स, इसको एक इंपॉर्टेंस देनी पड़ेगी, इसको बनाना पड़ेगा। डिस्ट्रिक्ट एनवायरमेंट प्लान्स हैं, वेयर सॉलिड वेस्ट इज वन ऑफ द, तो वो सब डिस्ट्रिक्ट में है, तो मुझे लगता है वहां पे यदि ये ग्राउंड लेवल पे एनजीटी ने वो उसको अलाउ किया, तो ये कुछ पॉजिटिव चीजें हैं। एंड आई एम वेरी thankful to everyone for inviting me. If you provide any opportunity or responsibility in Punjab or otherwise, so I will be happy to contribute. Thank you very much. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Rich. You very nicely pointed out the importance of traditional practices that have now, in fact, started to resurface, and many cities are adopting these approaches. But again, there will be a need to regulate these practices as well. So I now request Sunita ji to sum up and give a concluding note to everybody, and we can end the session.
Thank you, Mitashi. So fascinating. I think we've heard a whole range, and that was our promise, but this is really a consultation to bring every stakeholder together. And I think the most important is, and Rajneesh, thank you very much. Thank you, Mitashi. Thank you, Sujit. Thank you, the whole team, for this excellent work, because what we have done here is to allow us to benchmark what is happening. If you benchmark what is happening, and you can also understand who is taking what steps. So if Pimpri Jimtuad is doing something, we can learn from it, we can improve it. Chandigarh is doing, let's see what can be done. At the end of the day, the most important thing about this is that we are making our own experience. There is no textbook here. And this textbook is going to come out of experience and learning, and sharing of that learning to build more. And the idea should be constantly to keep evolving it, because we should never think that we have found the best yet. We don't know yet. There is nothing in, I mean, if I look at the rest of the world, there is nothing there that you can bring and immediately apply it. So we will learn from this. And so thank you very much for doing this. I think it's a very, very important piece of work, which will help us to do what we have heard from Mr. Kaushal, we heard from Mr. Rao, we heard from Mr. Vij. The fact is they are practicing this, and they need also to keep learning, evolving, and doing better. So the idea now should be, and I did in the later sessions today, and today we are not opening this session for question and answer, but the next two sessions are going to be much more interactive. And the idea with these sessions should be to all the understanding, but to identify, and that was something I spoke to Anamita yesterday, that in the last session, what I'd be grateful for is if you can all help us to identify also what is the roadmap going forward. From my point of view, documentation, training will remain one very important part of what CSC does. Because when you document successful case studies, you can also use them in training. And those training allow people to go and implement, which then becomes more case studies for you to use for training. So essentially, the Anil Agarwal Environment Training Institute, we see it as an experiential center. We don't see it as a formal training. It's not a university. It's a center of practice, of learning, and of learning. So that is clearly going to be CSC's work. But what you see, all of you, as the agenda for change. And that, Anumita, will be very good if you can identify, because then together we can look at how do we amplify. And that is important because as the bottom line of this report is, we have now in the last decade got the policies together. To some extent, we have got the regulations together, but practice is still very much lacking. So now the next decade has to be to scale up practice. And that's really the beginning of this conference. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.